about Sun-Jupiter conjunction, bringing together our consistent actions with our higher purpose. We have to be careful of being rigid and dogmatic, but in general, it's an excellent conjunction and association. So check this out. So the Sun-Jupiter conjunction is very interesting because both the Sun and Jupiter are fiery Sattvic energies, fiery Sattvic planets. Sattva means the desire to do good and the desire to uplift and to expand and to connect to something bigger and to contribute and to share and to connect with the heart. These are all Sattvic qualities. Doesn't mean they're always good. Sometimes we have the desire to share when we need to protect. And we overlook important details because we want to connect with something bigger, and instead we don't have enough money, or we aren't willing to compromise and bring our energy down to earth. So it's not a judgment. But it is a shared motivation with the Sun and Jupiter. So when Sun and Jupiter come together, it will support that energy and that lesson in a particular area of life. So whatever the sign that the Sun-Jupiter conjunction takes place in, it will support that psychological lesson, because that's what you can know about the signs, is that they're the feeling of that section of sky. The signs are extensions of planets. Planets rule the signs. The masculine and feminine nature of the planets are felt psychologically through the signs. So when that Sun-Jupiter conjunction, for instance, if it's in a fire sign, it really supports that inspirational, that inspired purpose to be clear about who you are as an individual, and then be self-directed toward bringing that individuality out. If it's in an earth sign, then that Sun-Jupiter is going to want to illuminate and grow and expand structure, materiality, home, garden. It's good for things like Ayurveda, architecture, building structures, for example. But it can be more materialistic if we're not careful, because that's sort of the nature of Earth, is to create something tangible, but in the highest sense to also be grounded and to be content with what we have. If you get the Sun-Jupiter, for instance, in air, then it's going to illuminate and try to expand and grow ideas, and to try to elevate ideas and energize them, because that's the nature of air. And it can get sort of dispersed. Jupiter and the Sun in air signs is often a dispersed quality, because air is about ideas, and the Sun and Jupiter both are quite fiery. Jupiter is also watery because it also rules the water sign. But when it joins the Sun, it's going to take on more of the fiery qualities, because the Sun is masculine. If it joins the Moon, it's going to take on more of the watery qualities, right? But when you get it in air, it becomes sort of dispersed, and the actions of the Sun, Jupiter, become less focused. And then if you get it in water, the Sun, Jupiter becomes more feeling-centered, trying to illuminate and expand our feelings and our emotions. But you want to understand that the Sun, the influence of the Sun on any planet, illuminates it and is trying to burn off the impurities associated with the worldly quality of that energy. When planets join the Sun, there's a point where they even become combust. When they get too close to the Sun, then they're completely on the opposite side of the Sun, and the rays of that planet are passing through the Sun before they come to the Earth. So the Sun is literally burning up their energy. And so when that happens, we can be somewhat frustrated with the use of that planet's energy as it gets purified. But besides that, what the sun does when it joins Jupiter is it really energizes that Jupiterian hope, inspiration, and purpose, and says, I'm going to take action based on that. So the sun really brings energy into action and really brings a drive and a focus and a consistent drive and a consistent focus to it. The sun is the most consistent energy. Every day rises, it moves 1 degree every day, right? So it's that consistent fire, that consistent vision, that consistent energy, that consistent purpose that we'll see with the sun. Even if you might say, oh, my purpose is, I don't really know what it is. Well, then that's your consistent purpose, is to be confused about the purpose and to meander. But it's somewhat consistent until you really identify something bigger. And that's what the Sattvic quality is. The Sattvic planets can tend to become frustrating and misused when we don't have a higher purpose. That's why what I said at the beginning, we can't judge, oh, well, Sattva, well, that's the good one. Well, it's the good one if we have a higher purpose and something to focus that Sattvic energy on. If we don't, then they're just as disruptive. When we're trying to focus our Sattvic energy on Rajasic things like people and relationships with people and interactions, it doesn't work, because what we tend to do is we tend to be too Pollyanna and sort of overly hopeful and oh, it'll all work out, and then we get our feelings hurt, and then we don't pay attention, or we also dismiss people rather than listen to what they say and get in there and talk. We'll like dismiss them. Sattvic energy is also the energy of bypassing, like spiritual bypassing. The thing we're bypassing is all of the unpleasant stuff of the world, because we want to bypass it and get to the thing that's more meaningful. But if we don't have anything that's more meaningful, then we're trying to put meaning in things that are lower. This is why the gunas need to be expressed appropriately. And planets interrupt, and the guna of the planet can be interrupted by the sign that the planet is in. That's why I talk about the sign qualities and the elemental qualities as well. So that Jupiter, Venus can really help to elevate our sense of purpose if we have an elevated purpose. If not, we can just be full of a lot of hot air and it's not going anywhere. And so, the influence of Jupiter on planets, on the sun, because I just talked about the influence of the sun on Jupiter, which is to empower it and to take those inspirations of Jupiter and focus them and make them consistent and aligned with something bigger. And the willingness to sacrifice for them, that's also what the sun brings. The influence of Jupiter on the sun, though, is to literally elevate that purpose. Because Jupiter is the most elevated, it's the most inspirational, it's the most, visionary, it's thinking about things beyond just this earth. The sun, we can get very bogged down in the things of the earth. It's very much about duty, responsibility. We can kind of lose ourselves in our work and in our career and forget to ask whether or not it's even something that fills us with meaning. So what Jupiter does is always looking for meaning. Jupiter is looking for meaning, looking for purpose. What's the point of this? Why am I doing this? Literally. Jupiter says why. Mercury says how. How does it work? Jupiter says, why do I care? Why does it work? Why is it important? That's what Jupiter's about. So what Jupiter would do, its influence on the sun, is to say, why are you doing this? You have all this power, all this energy. Why are you doing it? What's the purpose of your work, your duty, your consistent effort and energy? Why? Are you doing it so you can take care of your family and make enough money to take care of your family? Okay, that's a good reason. But is there something more? What about the higher purpose? Who are you beyond just your family? Who are you beyond just these duties? Who are you beyond just the recognition? Who are you beyond just shining and being powerful? What's the true power? What's the true nature? So Jupiter is very philosophical. It's the part of our mind that's philosophical and asking why, and looking for a teacher, looking for an answer, looking for a purpose, philosophy, belief. And again, this is the Sattvic quality of Jupiter. Jupiter is the Sattvic quality of hope, to connect us with something bigger. And so when these two planets get together, they really support those shared qualities of Sattva, mainly in a very fiery way, very inspirational way. But we have to be careful of these, of a kind of rigidity, a sort of dogmatic approach, particularly in the fire and the earth signs. Fire and earth are the most rigid, you would say. Earth, of course, can be quite stuck, but fire also can just be like black and white. You know, when people have too much fire, sometimes they're hard to communicate with, they're hard to deal with, even though they might be very smart or very inspired. They can see things very black and white and be very rigid in that. And so, again, one of the things we have to watch with with a Sun Jupiter is that rigid kind of judgment, excessive judgment, being too judgmental and confrontational about it. Like, my judgments are the right ones and what I'm doing is right. And the problem with Jupiter is being too righteous, and the Sun also can be that way. Particularly about our actions being the right ones. So, in general though, it's a favorable relationship for both planets because of how much they share, and particularly for connecting our vision and purpose with our duties and responsibilities and action.